Okay, so the last video ended where we talked about how the Common School Act of 1865 defined the role of the superintendent. So through my research, this gentleman right here, this is Alfred Waddington, and he was the first colonial superintendent. Apparently that's different from, there was another man, Jessup, who also was a superintendent, but I believe Alfred Waddington is the first educational administrator in the province of British Columbia. Um, Mr. Waddington was a Victorian merchant. He was a merchant in the city of Victoria. He was an entrepreneur. And he held the position of superintendent until September of 1867. And throughout his life, even after he left this position, he continued to be an advocate for free and public education. So once again, there is that theme of children deserve education. All children deserve to be educated, and it should be free. Similar to what we talked about in the text. So these are some pictures of some schoolhouses in British Columbia. These two are from the 1800s. And this is clearly a modern school. So I will just go in order. So this picture right here, these two represent the schoolhouses of that time period. During that time, the schoolhouses were pretty much all made of wood or some type of frame wood construction. Only two of the houses in the late 1800s, 1874, were made of logs. So, yeah. They were normally heated by stoves and in some cases fireplaces. But they really didn't have a lot of furniture, minimal furnishings, just pretty much benches and desks. Most of them had blackboards, but not all of them. In this time period, the overwhelming majority of these schools did not have electricity or indoor plumbing, and they were heated by wood stoves. So naturally, many of these schools were unsanitary and unsafe. Plumbing was an issue, ventilation was inadequate, there was no running water. And since they were often built from wood and heated by fireplaces and open furnaces, there's always this constant threat of fire. So just going to school in the 1800s was dangerous. The schoolhouse itself just wasn't safe. But then you fast forward to this beautiful, beautiful building. This right here is Victoria High School. And it's the oldest high school in British Columbia because it's the first public high school in British Columbia. So it's a really beautiful building, the architecture, the quality of construction. I was doing my research. Everyone had all these great things to say about it. And the locals call it Vic High. Education in British Columbia. So the setup of the education is quite similar to here in the States. There is a emphasis on early education programs. They have a strong preschool program in British Columbia. They have a program called Strong Start, and it's free for all children in British Columbia up until 5, which I thought was interesting because here in America, we have something called a pre-K lottery, and it's free. You just have to get picked. So it kind of puts children and parents, if I don't get picked, what do I do with my child? And that's a whole other discussion. But in British Columbia, everybody can go, and it's free for every child until they're 5. And Strong Start, the way that it's set up, the parents join their children for the day. They read them stories, sing some music, and just really spend that time preparing their children for kindergarten. There was another program I read about called Ready, Set, Learn. And if you are a family with a 3-year-old child, It just gives you all this information about how to prepare your child for first grade, which begins in kindergarten. Kindergarten. Um, all children between the ages of 6 and 16 must go to school, or they can study at home. So those are those K through 12 school options, which is pretty much identical to how it's set up here in America. Kindergarten is mandatory in America, but the compulsory attendance age is 6. And I do believe children, if they decide they want to go to school, 16 over here in America too. So that's a similarity. They can go to an independent school, private school, public school, or be homeschooled. So those are their options. When you talk about British Columbia and its education, you cannot have this conversation without talking about their universities and their colleges. So apparently, British Columbia has world renowned universities. And this picture right here is a picture of the University of British Columbia. Um, British Columbia, you have all the children that go there have a billion options: small rural colleges, large urban campuses, full time, part time, online, pretty much like in America. They have really diverse options. Back to the University of British Columbia though. So this university was established in 1908, and that makes UBC British Columbia's oldest university. And it is ranked among the top 20 public universities in the world. In the whole wide world, this school in British Columbia is top 20. So they have a stellar education system in British Columbia. Oh, and it's one of the top 3 in the country of Canada. So when I found that out, my mind was blown because, over here in America, we have our colleges that we know are prestigious and rigorous, and it's just always interesting learning about other colleges and other universities and other parts of the world. So that's University of British Columbia. The curriculum in British Columbia's schools. This part of my project was the most interesting. I really, really, really enjoyed learning about the changes of British Columbia's curriculum. So at the current moment, they have a council of education. That's another thing. So over here in America, we have the federal Department of Education. They don't have that in Canada. They just kind of let the provinces figure it out. But there is like a council, an advisory council, and the Ministry of Education. But the word that they use in British Columbia is modernization. And currently, British Columbia is undergoing a curriculum transformation, a modernization of curriculum. And this was brought about because the pioneer of the 21st Century Learning Initiative, Dr. Abbott, he went to British Columbia, I think to do some research, but either one of the professors that was with him touring the schools, or it might have been himself, but somebody made a statement saying British Columbia does such a good job at educating the children for a world that they no longer live in. And when that statement was made, that's when the powers that be, the council, the other lieutenant governor, just the people at the top said, okay, if we are preparing these children for a world that doesn't exist anymore, then we're not preparing them for anything. We're preparing them to fail. So in my next session, I'm going to talk about the curriculum in British Columbia schools.